Hello everyone and welcome to the Study Jams session on web development. In this session, we would be having an introduction about web development and learning about HTML. So let us begin with our session. So first thing is about introduction to web development. What is meant by web development? As the name suggests, it is about developing a website. We all are very familiar with the websites. We are using it on a regular basis, be it for online shopping, banking transactions, or any other purpose. With web development, we can create our own websites, design our own websites, and customize them in the way we want. So, to understand the web development completely, we need to understand its two major components, that is, the front end and the back end. So the front end part of a website is the part of the website that we as users can interact through. The layout of the website, the styling of the website, the responsiveness, the color, the border, margin or padding used, whatever is visible to us as users of that website falls under the category of front end. All the activities that occur in the background of the website related to servers or the databases fall under the backend part of a website. For front-end, we need three major languages, that is HTML, Hypertext Markup Language, CSS, Cascading Style Sheets, JavaScript. For backend, we have many languages such as PHP, Node.js, etc. Now, an important term here is full stack. So basically, it means having knowledge of both the front-end part and the back-end part. So we are focusing today on the front-end part. So before moving directly to the HTML, first understand how these three languages are used in the front-end. What are their roles in website? So here is an analogy that will help to understand better the role of these three languages respectively. So the analogy is that of a human being. So just as we all human beings, we have a skeleton, we have two legs, two arms, a head. So this is the structure of a human, right? Similarly, the structure for a website is given by HTML. Which component will be placed first, which component will be placed next is decided by the HTML. The content is a heading, or is it a paragraph, or is it a table, is decided by the HTML tags. So HTML is responsible for providing an organization to the websites. Next comes is the styling. Just as we all of us have a different sense of styling, similarly, the styling to a website is given by CSS. This will be including the colors, border, margin, the layout. All these will fall under the CSS category. Next comes the brain, which is responsible for governing all the functions of a human body. Similarly, JavaScript is the brain for the websites. All the logical part, the mathematical calculations, the decision-making parts are handled by the JavaScripts inside a website. So this is the role of these three languages in a website. Now let us focus on our main part of today's discussion, that is the HTML. So having discussed this, that HTML provides us with the organization, the structure of the web page, and it is the basic necessity for developing a website, especially the front-end part. Then it is a standard language which has been chosen to design a website. An important thing here to note is that it is not a programming language, it is a markup language. Now, markup languages are the ones that uses tags for their syntax. We will come to know further that HTML is all about tags. So, HTML is not a programming language, it is a markup language. So before moving to the coding part of the HTML, let's first understand few terms that will be used quite often when we will be discussing about the HTML. The first thing that comes are the tags. So whatever content is written between these angular braces in HTML are the tags. Now, tags are used to define the contents of the web page. Like which type of content are we using, that all are described using the tags. We would be learning about the tags very shortly. In HTML, almost every tag is opened using this symbol and then closed using this symbol, which includes a forward slash in between the angular braces. An important part here to note is that all HTML tags are case insensitive. Although we prefer writing those tags in lower cases, but it is absolutely fine if we write it in upper cases as well. It won't show any error. So the next term that comes is attribute. So attributes are the special extra information that is given about the tags. So they are written within the opening brackets of the tags itself, and they will be giving some new information about the tags. Next comes the element. So an HTML element comprises of all the three parts, that is the opening brackets, the content, and the closing brackets. Combinedly together, it is known as the HTML element. Now that we have understood these terms, let's move to the hardcore part, that is the coding part of our HTML. So this is the starting codes for the HTML, for the beginning of HTML. This is the first thing that we would encounter. So this is a boilerplate of HTML. So the boilerplate is generally a set of lines that you will be using as it is without any changes. Okay. So these codes are must whenever we will be writing an HTML file. Whatever code we need to insert, we would be inserting in wherever required. But these set of lines are must. So this is the boilerplate of HTML. Now to understand it better, let's go and implement it practically on our IDEs and understand what each and every line here means. So here, now that we have come to our IDEs, this is the Visual Studio Code that I am using here. So for those who are very new to this coding part, you need to understand that for writing your codes, you must have an IDE, and you can go online and search on the internet. You will very easily get on how to install these IDEs and get on your laptops. Okay, so now let us begin with the coding of the HTML. So as soon as I type the exclamation here on my keyboard, I get the suggestions. Now, this is the benefit of using an IDE, that they give you automatic suggestions. You don't have to write everything word to word. So either you click on this or you press enter, we would get the boilerplate of HTML in front of us. We didn't need to write each and every line here. We got it automatically. Now let's understand what these terms actually mean. So the very first line here is that doc type HTML. So you can see first of all that all the lines, all the terms are enclosed within the angular brackets, right? So because all of them are the tags. So this is why HTML is a markup language. It has tags, all of them. Okay. So the very first line is the doc type HTML. So it is used to tell the browser which version of HTML are we using. First of all, which type of document are we using, that is the HTML, and which version of HTML are we using. Several versions of HTML do exist, HTML5, HTML 4.0, XHTML, etc. Fine. So this is used to tell which type of HTML are we using. The second thing is the HTML opening bracket. So here is an opening of the HTML tag, and you can from here we are beginning our HTML document. Now this lang, this is an attribute to this HTML tag. This lang here stands for the language whose value is EN, which is English. So this is an additional information about this HTML tag, that the language is the English we are using here. And next is the head part of our HTML document. So the head, this is the opening of the head tag, and then head tag basically has meta tags, title of the website, and also if in future when you will be learning about CSS, you need to insert those CSS files in your HTML file. So we would be doing it here. So we insert the external CSS files here inside the head tag whenever required. So the meta tags are basically giving information about our websites to the browser, making it easier for the browser to suggest our websites to the users. Okay, so like you can give your keywords, like when users should type these words, my website should be suggested, or whether my website should be suggested or not. You can govern all these things. So the charset, name, content, so these are the attributes to the meta tags. Charset is about character encoding, which is set to UTF-8 by default. Okay, so this is about meta tags. Then comes the title. So by default, it is given document. You can change if you want, depending on the purpose of your website. With that, we have the end of the head tag. Next part is the body part of the HTML. So this is the beginning of the body tag. Whatever content you would be writing here inside the body tag will be displayed on our websites. For example, let us write some random content, right? And then let us save this file and go on to the browser. See, now whatever we wrote, it just got displayed on our website. So whatever you would be writing inside the body part will be displayed on the website. So this is the live server that we use to directly go to our websites without refreshing it each and every time, right? So this was all about the boilerplate of HTML. Let's return back to our presentation. So having known about the HTML boilerplate, summary of whatever we have studied till now, that document type, HTML tells the type of document and the version of HTML used. HTML, language English, opening of HTML tag, and an attribute language, which is assigned a value English. Opening of the head tag, which has meta tags in it, title of the website, and links to the external sheets, if any. Then the meta tags. So the meta tags have various attributes like char, set, name, and they would be containing the description and the keywords of our websites. And it also defines the responsiveness. This line is the responsible for the responsiveness, and it is given some standard values by default. So this is then comes the title, and it is given the value document by default. Then the head tag has been closed. Then comes the body, which is responsible for the contents which are displayed on the website. And we will be using many tags, paragraph tags, tables, forms, etc. We would be learning about them shortly to show different kinds of content. And then an important part here was that whenever you need to insert the external JavaScript files, we insert them in the body tag at the end. The CSS files were inserted in the head tag, and the JavaScript files are inserted inside the body tag of the HTML. Then the body tag has been closed and the HTML tag has been closed. Now, these are some commonly used tags that you would be using very often when you are creating a website through HTML. Okay, so let's go and implement them practically. So now here we are inside our file, index file again. So the first thing is heading tag. So we use heading. So you can see H is used for heading. Now the size of your heading can be decided by whatever number you choose. So H1 will give you the largest heading, H2 a smaller, and in the same way, H6 will be also a heading, but the size will be small. So let us take H1, the maximum size. So a simple way is that to write such tags is that you write H1 and press enter. this will be completed automatically. Now, whatever we write down, let's suppose we are writing HackSlash. Now let's see, let's save this and let's go to our, let's see, our website has been updated with the heading HackSlash. Fine. So let's move back to our IDE. For the paragraphs, we will be using P. Now just write P and press enter. The paragraph tag has been created. Now just write down whatever content you need to write for the paragraph. Now in HTML, if you are willing to write some random contents, so you have a predefined word for it. So just write down lorem and whatever words you require. Suppose I am using 15 words. I require 15 random words and press enter. This generated 15 words. Now to view it properly, let's go, and here we have it in one frame. So it has generated 15 words, a random text. Save this and go again to our website. See, this is the paragraph tag that we inserted and it has been inserted. So here let us insert few more words. So we got some extra text. Now let us insert other tags in between these tags. Now suppose you want a bold text. So for that we have two symbols, that is B as well as another word is the strong. Now here we have used bold. Now let's use strong as well. This is the bold tag that we have used and this is the strong tag. Now whatever content you need to make it bold, just write down in between these tags. Now both of them will be used to bold the text. Now let us see how. This much part was done by the B tag and then this much part was done by the strong tag. Now, both of these tags are used for the bold text, but we prefer writing it this way because this has been suggested by the newly version of the HTML, the HTML5, and this has been an old-fashioned, no more in use right now. Okay, so you can use either of them, but prefer writing strong. Similarly, if you want italic, we have I for it. Okay, just I for it, or you can also use EM. Right. So let's save this and go back to our website. Now you can see this and this word has been turned italic. Now again, EM is for emphasis, for turning it into italic, and I is also for italic. But we would be preferring to use EM because it is suggested by the latest version. To create the word smaller than the normal height, we use the tag small. So let's place it here. And okay, so this word has now become smaller in size than the remaining normal height words. Next comes is the superscript and the subscript. So we use sub tag for the subscript and sup for the superscript. So save this and go. Now you can see the word which we wrote within the subscript became down than the normal height of the line, and the word we wrote in superscript became in height. It rose in height than the remaining normal ones. So this is subscript and this is the superscript. Now next is to give breaks in between your lines. Okay, if you want a new line and divide this paragraph into two, you can use a BR tag. Okay, so let's see what difference it makes. So our paragraph got divided into two halves because from here it shifted to the next line. So the BR tag is used to break the current sentence and go into the next line. Now for drawing a horizontal line, we use the HR tags. Let's see, this horizontal line has been created in our websites. Now to delete a word, we use the tag delete and press enter. Now insert whatever word you want to delete. Save the word, save the file. And you see this word has been deleted with a strike through symbol. So this was the delete tag for the HTML. To insert an image in our website, we use the img tag. So it has two attributes assigned to it, src and alternate. So src will be containing the source file, a link of the image that we are supposed to be inserting. And the web image can be either from the folder that we are working, or it can be the direct link to that image from the browser. And the alternate contains the text that will be displayed in case the src image could not be loaded because of some error. So here I have an image of our college logo. So I have copied the link to that. And here I am writing alternate text NITP. Let's save this file and go to our website. Now see, this image, this logo has been inserted. Now, in case we made this link invalid, let's delete some text so that it becomes an invalid link. Now save this file and now see this, since that link was invalid and that could not generate the image, so the alternate text that we wrote is now visible here. Let's undo the changes and get the proper image. Right. So this is the image that we wanted. Now to insert a link to your website, you need to use the anchor tag, which is from symbol A. The attribute to this anchor tag is href. Now here you need to paste the link of website that you want to visit. And here you will be having the text, so that when you click on this text from your website, you would be taken to this website. Now I have the link of our official college web page. So I am copying it here and I'm writing here text NITP. So let's see how it works. This is the link that has been created. Now let's click on it and we were directed to the official web page which we had copied. Now you can see here that this page of the college loaded in the same tab as we were working on. So to change this, we need to set the attribute target to _blank. Now when you use this blank attribute and you click on this website again, now this website is opening in a new tab. Earlier it was opening in the same tab as we were working on. So by default, the value of the target attribute is self. Now if we click again on this link, so this was by default that it will be opening in the same tab. We usually prefer to open the external links in the new tab, so we would be setting it blank here. Now let's move back to our presentation. So these are the tags that we already discussed: the heading tag, paragraph tag, bold tag, italic, image, anchor tag for the links, the button tag, navigation tag, subscript and superscript. The button tag is to create a button. Similarly, like we have done before, you have to write button and whatever value you want to give to that button has to be inserted in between and then close the button tag. Similarly, navigation bar, if required in a website, is created using nav tag. Now nav is opened and closed using nav, and then whatever links you wanted to add in your navigation section should be written in between them. And subscript and superscript, we have already seen them. Now important thing is that we saw the break tag and the HR tag. Now all the tags we used before were opening as well as closing. But the break tag, the HR tag for the horizontal line, and the image tag, now these tags were open only. They were not closed. They did not have any closing tags. So there do exist some tags in HTML that are not closed. They will be only having the opening brackets. This input tag, we would be learning about it shortly. So these are few examples of the tags which are only having the opening brackets, and they are also known as the empty tags. So now this is an example for how these codes are used in HTML. And this is the output generator. So now the next thing that comes is the lists in HTML. So list means to store particular things one after the other. Okay. So you can have it in two types, ordered or unordered. If you have it in a particular sequence, one after the other, then that is ordered. And if you are randomly having it, no particular sequence of organizing, it's unordered. So let's move to our IDE. Okay. So another thing is that if you don't want a particular part of your code to be present on your website, like you want this line to be there in your code but not executed or not present in your website, just go on that line, press Ctrl and /. Now this line has been commented. This will be there in your code, but it will not be present in your website. Take this file and go to our website. Okay, so see that anchor tag has been removed. That link has been removed. So if you want such any part of your code to be not present on your website for some time or for any purpose, you should comment it down. The next thing that comes is the list. Now, suppose for ordered list, I press it so that it becomes a comment. So for the ordered list, we have OL, press enter. Now, whatever item, whatever value you need to insert in your list, just write it down using LI. Okay. Whatever number of items you want to add it down, write that much LI. Suppose I am writing here the names of some companies. Okay. Tech companies. Right. So I wrote it down the name of few companies. Let's say a website now. So see here you got a list of few companies, right? Now by default these were one. You can even change the way they are numbered. That we have an attribute type. So you can see there are multiple options. By default, this one is selected where you will get it numbered 1, 2, 3, 4. Then you want it to be numbered in alphabetical order, you can use A. If you want it in lower cases, you can have small a. You want it in Roman numerals, you can use the symbol I. So we can test any of them. Let's test the alphabetical one and let's see what changes it makes. See, it has now been in the alphabetical order, numbered in the alphabetical order. The small numbers you can use I also for it. Okay, so this will give you in 1, 2, 3, 4 in the this file, right? So you can choose whatever you want to insert. Okay, so the next thing that is there is the unordered list. Right. So let's comment this out again. Then for the unordered list, we are having tag UL. Press enter. You would be getting this syntax. Now again, li for each item you want to insert, right? Let's insert some fruits here. Right? So again, here also you can use type attribute. Now let's first check what will it take by default. So let's save it and go. Now this is the unordered list that we created. Now by default, this symbol, which is the disk symbol, is used as ordering. We can change this if we want. Again, we use the type attribute, right? And here you can write it circle. So you would be getting the circles now on the list. You can use squares as well. So let's check square also. So see, here you got the squares as your symbols for the unordered list. So this was all about ordered list and unordered list. The next thing that comes are the tables in HTML. Okay, so tables. To create table, we use the tag table. Right? Now, in this, you would be having two major components again: table heading and the body of the table. Now, if you want the headings in the columns at the beginning, so you have to write it down in the heading section. And if you have to enter the data to that respective headings, then that will be in the body part of the table. So let's first open the TL, right? Now inside this heading tag, and then the second part will be the T body. Fine. Now inside the heading tag, we need to insert rows. Every time you have to insert a row, you have to use a symbol TR. For one row, you would be using TR. Now, since you want it as a heading, so definitely you will want need that that particular heading should be bold. Okay, it should be appearing as a heading, a different text. That we use TH. Now, let's write it down. Student table, right? So we would be using roll numbers. So roll number, then and then branch. Okay, so what you did just now, you opened the heading section of the table. There you created a row where you had three headings: roll number, name, and branch. Next, when you come in T body, you are going to insert the values to this respective headings. Now, I have suppose 3 students, let's say. So I would be creating 3 rows. Now, every time you would be inserting a data inside the body, you would be using the tag TD. Okay, so since for one row means you are entering the data of one person. So for one person, we have 3 things to be filled. So let's fill roll number, say 1. Name, let's say XYZ. And branch, say let's CSE. Okay. For the second person again, we would be using TD. Okay, so since we require 3 data to be filled, let's fill the data again. So our table has been created. This was the heading part where we had a row which had 3 headings to be denoting the roll number, name, and branch. And then we had the body tag where we entered the values to the table. This was the first entity's data to the respective columns. Remember, this has to be in order. Roll number first, then name, then branch. Because see, okay, so this has been created in our website. This was the heading that we gave, and these were the values that we inserted. Okay, so we can also caption our table if we want. So just after the opening of the table tag, we use the caption. Okay, so just write, let's give it a name, students. Okay, whatever name you want to give to your table. So this has become the name of our students. So this was all about creating the tables in HTML. Let's move to our presentation again. So we discussed about the list, the ordered list and the unordered list, and the type attribute is used to change the way in which they are represented in either of them, ordered or unordered. Then this is again the syntax for your list. This is for the ordered list, this is for the unordered list, and an example of this. Next thing that we saw was the tables. So the table tag is used to begin the table, and it has 2 components, the head and the body. The T head for the heading and T body for the body of the table. Then TR tag, every time you create a row, one TR tag is for one row. Then TH is for heading, and TD is for entering the data in the table. So again, this is quite similar, the table that we created, like the students table that we just created. We also put the caption to it. So this is a basic syntax of how to create a table. Another important thing here is that this T head is optional, because since you are writing TH as your tags here, so even if you don't mention T head, by default also the output would be same, and it would be giving in both letters. So the next terms that we need to understand are the classes and IDs. Now both of them are used as an attribute in any of the HTML tag that you want. Now the purpose of their usage is that they are used for the identification of that particular HTML tag, but in a different way. For classes, one HTML tag can have many class names. The classes are assigned inside the name attribute. Okay, so one HTML tag can have many classes for it, and also the same class name can be given to many tags, so that when you require to give a common styling to all the such tags, you can give a style to that class, and instead of doing it one by one, all of them together can be assigned the same styling. When it comes to ID, so ID is unique. The ID attribute for one tag will not be the same for any other tag in that particular complete HTML code. It will be helpful to uniquely identify that tag and use it wherever required. So both of these attributes are for the identification of the tags and also to group similar elements wherever required. Right? So let's move on further. The next thing that comes are the forms in HTML. Now we have filled various Google forms. Okay, so wherever we are allowed to enter our own information in the selected columns. So that is the form that we are going to create here through HTML. So let's move to our IDE. First, let's comment out the code that we have written till now in our HTML file. Just give a heading named forms. Okay, so now we are beginning to create the form in HTML. So for starting of the form, we need to use the tag form, press enter. Now this is the syntax for the beginning of the form. Now we see that we have action attribute assigned to the form tag. Now this action attribute is responsible for handling the form that we are going to create. When you will click the submit button of that form, where the form will go, what data will be stored, where the data will be stored, and what all will happen after the submission of this form, action will be responsible. And here you will be having a PHP file or any other server location where these files will be stored. So this is the action attribute. So if you have a certain destination for your form submission, you can put it. For currently, we can ignore it since we are not working on the server part right now. So coming to the form, the main part of the form is the input, where we as users are allowed to enter the information that has been asked. So create that input box, we use the tag input. Now we can have several types of data that we can enter in the forms. Okay, we have our name, we have roll numbers, we have a submit button. So we have many different types of inputs that we can enter. So here we have few of them that is possible in HTML to be used. You have button, checkbox, color, date, email, image, number, password, radio, reset, search, submit, text, URL, week, etc. Okay, so we can use any of the input that we want depending upon our requirement. So for now, let's write enter. Let's press enter. So by default, this was selected as text. Now, suppose we want name input. So we are giving it a heading, name, and then we are creating an input tag which will take only text as input. Now let's see how it works. Let's go to our website. See, this is the heading that we gave to this input box, and here now we are allowed to enter our data. Here we can enter any text data that we want. Okay, so this was the first input tag that we created. So next thing, let's suppose we want to enter our roll number. So roll number, and the input type for the roll number will definitely be number. So let's choose number. Right. So again, see, this is the class and this is the ID. If you want to assign their values right now, you are required to do so. So you can, otherwise you can leave. So for now, we are not required to use them. So let's not give them any value. And see, we created a roll number input tag which will take only numbers as input. Okay, so first let's give it a proper spacing. I'll be using break tags. I am giving 2 break tags for the proper spacing. Well, this is not a good way of doing it. It is better to use margins, border, and padding. When you would be learning CSS, you will be more aware of it. For now, we are using the break tags for the spacing. So see, we had 2 input tags. Now here you can only enter inputs. Now, suppose I want to give any alphabetical input, it is not taking. Now why it took E? Because E is used here for exponential. So except E, if you are typing any other alphabet, it's not going to take. E is used because it is used for the powers. Okay, you can express it when you want to express in powers, you can use E for exponential. And remaining, you can enter the numerical data that you want. Okay. So another way of doing this, like we wrote number just before the input tag and it got labeled. Another way of doing is using a label tag. Now label tag is also used to give a label to any input. Now, which input tags label are we giving here? We will identify that using this for attribute. Now here inside the for attribute of label, you would be giving the ID of the input tag. Suppose I wanted to enter here institute So, right. So now let me create a input tag for that. So this will also be a text type. The input type will be text. Now here I need to give an ID to this input tag. Let me give insti in short form. And then this ID, same ID needs to be entered here, telling this label tag that this institute label is for that input tag whose ID is insti. Now we should also give spacing again. And let's see what happened to our form. See, this created in a similar way. The institute was assigned to this input tag, and here again you could enter the text data now. Next thing is that if you wanted to create a drop-down list, suppose I wanted to ask your gender, so let me write it down. And we use select tag to create a drop-down list. Let's have select and enter. Again, it is asking for the name and ID. Since we are not required here now, because we are not using label, so we can ignore it. So this is the select tag. Now within the select tag, you will use option tag to enter the options that you want to assign. Right? So now value attribute to any tag is to give the initial value for that tag, for that input tag. So let's give here now here, like when we see some standard select boxes, the first option says select whatever option you want. Now we don't want male to appear as a very first option in our select box. So we are writing here a standard word select, and to make it invalid, not an option to be chosen, hash is used, right? So let's save this and go to our website. See, gender was the label that we gave to this tag, and we used select so that by default this value is given to this input box. So when you will click on this, you will get a drop down list, choose whatever option you want. So this has been chosen. Another important thing, that if you want any option to be chosen by default, okay, so you can use selected for that option. Now I chose it selected. Let's save this. Okay, now by default it was selected female. I can choose any other, okay, any other you want. It's done by using the selected tag. Also, you have seen in many Google Forms that certain fields are marked mandatory. Okay, you have a star mark saying that these forms fields need to be filled or else your form will not be submitted. So we do have an option for that. We use the word required inside the tag. Now let's see. We have named both of them, name and roll number, as necessary by using the word required. So let's create a button to submit and check the validity of the word required. So we are having an input type submit for creating a submit button. Okay. Now here the value will be the initial value that the submit button would be having. So I am giving it a value submit form. Should give a break statement again. Let's see what happened. So this is the submit form button that we created. Now let's suppose I entered some value here. Say these two forms are filled. Now I didn't fill these two forms, although they were marked mandatory, but I didn't fill this form and I am trying to submit it. See, it is asking me to fill this form or else my form is not going to submit. Okay, I need to fill this field as well. So suppose I'm filling it with name as well. Again, I'm trying to submit. It is asking me to fill the roll number as well, as these both the fields cannot be left empty. So this is the use of the word required. Now, another thing is that if you want users to get a sample of what type of text should they enter in that particular input box, or give them any instruction, you can use placeholder. So placeholder attribute, here I'm writing enter your name. Okay, now see what changes it makes. Now see, this input tag is having enter your name written in it, telling the user that you have to enter your name here. Okay, so sometimes like you have to specify, like in roll numbers, I say roll numbers, enter valid roll numbers only. Okay, this is a suggestion that I wanted to give. So I'm having here a placeholder stating me that valid roll numbers are allowed here only. So this was the use of the word placeholder. Another thing that we need to know is input type, which is rating. Now let us know the year of our study. Okay, use the spaces, and then we want to take year of study from the students, year of study, and now to choose among some predefined options, we can use either radio boxes or checkboxes. Okay, these two are the forms of input as well. There is a slight difference between their usage. Okay, so let's take input type as checkbox. Give their name as boxes, right? It's just their name boxes. And maybe its ID. Right? Now, a label to this checkbox is also required. So the ID will be same as that of the input box. So I am giving it P. Now the first option that we want is definitely first year. Now I am copying it again. So let me change the ID of each. And then second year. Again changing here the ID. In the next line. Okay, so I want each label in a line for a better look. So, assigning a BR tag. So here we have year of study as our heading to the various options that we have predefined. Okay, so that the user can choose whichever option he or she wants to choose. Now checkboxes allow you to select more than one options also at a time. You can select all four of them, you can select one of them, or you can select any few of them as well. Okay, there it allows you to give multiple inputs. Now in same place, if I place it repeat you, I need to replace all of them. Okay, so now I made all of them input type radio. Now let's see what difference it makes. So now all of them are in circles, radio boxes. Now the change here you can see is that if I select first and I change my option, only one at a time can be selected, not both of them. If I try to select both these options, I won't be able to do. Okay, so this is the difference between radios and checkboxes. Checkboxes allow you to select multiple options, but radios allows you to select only one option at a time. Also in checkboxes, let's undo the changes that we made. Okay, now all of them are again the checkboxes. If you want some options to be checked, to be selected by default, you should use the word checked. Okay, now with that, our first option is selected by default. You may select other options as well. Okay, you may deselect this as well, but by default, first will be selected. So suppose I want to group together some of the fields in my form together so that they are separate from the other inputs. So for that, I use field set. Now, suppose I want to group together my name and roll number. So I will be using field set. Let me group together these two inside my field set. Now my name and roll number are inside the field set. To give a heading to this field set, like what name and roll number are or why am I grouping it, so I should give a heading to that selected portion. So for that I would be using legend. So let me write here a heading information. Right, so let's save this and go to our website. See, my name and roll number were grouped together in a box with the heading named information. So this could be done by field set and legend tag. We can have another button as well for the reset. For that we have input type reset. So I am giving it value reset, right? Also give spaces here. Okay, so I created a reset form and now let's move back to our form. So here we have a reset form as well. Now what it takes, suppose you used NITP, I used it last time, and you filled the form. Okay, this was the value that you wanted to fill and you filled, but you wanted to, for some reasons, you wanted to clear it now. So instead of going one by one and clearing, you can directly click on the reset form and all the values that you entered were cleared. We can use any of the input type that you want. Okay, so we have date as well. Let's use date for the date of birth. Suppose we want to insert it here. For that, we would be using input and we have date for it. So again, name and ID are not required. So let me remove them. And again, few spaces. And we'll see a date of birth column is inserted in our form. And here you can select the date, suppose 1, then month, maybe January, and year 2024. Right? So this is how you can insert date also in your form as well. So this was all about forms, and you can explore various input types, okay, and check them how they perform, what the function they do in your forms. So let's move back to a presentation. So forms in HTML allows you to insert your data and submit it to the server. Form tag is used to build a form. Input is taken using the input tag. with various input types. Text, number. Text area gives you the flexibility to choose the row and column of the input box that you are creating, and it will allow you to enter a little larger text. Okay, only text will limit your input. You will only have a straight line, one input tag, and you have to enter the value. The text area will give you a square or rectangle depending upon how many columns you are using. Then email, date, submit, reset, radio, checkbox. Okay, these were the input types, and there are several others that you can explore as well. Input is taken by this tag, and label for labeling the input tags, and then select option for creating the drop-down list. Next comes the action attribute for the form, which will be responsible for handling the form. Okay, whatever will be happening after the form submission. Next was the field set that is used to group together the same type of elements you wanted in your form to be together, and widget will be giving them the heading that is required for that together. Next comes the placeholder attribute, which will be giving the description about the input tag. Then value is used to give the initial value to the input boxes, and then required is used for those fields which should be mandatory for the users to fill for submitting the form. So this is the code for the form, and this is the output that was generated. Next thing that we need to know about is the div and the span. So these are the tags itself in the HTML. Div is meant for division. So if you want to divide your websites into various segments and then group them together, we can use the division tag. The span tag is also used for the same purpose, grouping together of the similar type of elements, but division tag is a block element, whereas span is an inline element. Now, what is block and inline? So those elements which would be taking up the entire line, the entire block when they are used, they are block tags. No matter how much space they are requiring in that line, but they will not allow any other tag or any other element to come to that box. Whereas inline elements are those which will be taking only the space that is required by them, and the remaining space will be taken by the other tags, other elements, if the space is sufficient for them to place. Okay, you can see there all the 4 boxes, the 4 different tags are in a new line. Even though the spaces are empty, but the next one cannot come here because this tag is a block element and it has taken the entire block. Whereas in inline, only this much space is taken by one element, the remaining spaces is available for other elements to take. Now, examples of few block elements are the div tag, the paragraph tags, HR tag. It is very easy to identify, where you can take 2 or 3 tags which you want to test, and when you see them on your websites, if they come one after the other in new line, it means they are block elements, and if they come one after the other adjacent, then that they are inline elements. So the examples of inline elements are span, anchor tag, strong, input tag, etc. Then last thing that we need to cover today is the semantic and non-semantic tags. So the tags which tell by their name what purpose they are meant for are the semantic tags. Like their name will suggest what is their purpose, why are they used here. And the non-semantic tags, you cannot relate their work from the meaning of their word. So like table, form, header, these name only suggest for what purpose these tags will be used. Span and div will be non-semantic tags, which you cannot directly say by their name for what purpose they are used. So these are the semantic tags and non-semantic tags. with that, we come to the end of our session today. I really hope you understood what all was taught during this session. You will achieve a lot more by practicing. So, thank you for attending the session. Hope you enjoyed the session.